I guess that interest continues, if only because, as I noted, Mitch has asked me to take questions about my time in Washington. So it's time for your questions about Helen Thomas, George Bush, either one, Hunter Thompson, Maureen Dowd, or God forbid, public or professional policy. I'll note that Mitch offered to let me do this off the record. I've been in Washington long enough to know that anything you say in front of this many people can never be off the record. And after 7 years of writing opinion columns, there's not much about which I'm not already on the record. Now you're going to have to point to people. I just have to tell you, it cannot be my brother, who actually, he didn't matriculate, he sort of wandered through the journalism program at North Texas. Oh, just shout it out. And that way we can play like we didn't hear them.
Question.
First of all, that as brusque as she sometimes appears, she is a wonderful person. That's true of a lot of people in Washington, even in people that I absolutely totally disagree with on policy or don't get their politics, but they are, I think that's one of the worst things that's happened in the sort of demonization, that there are a lot of really good people in Washington on both sides of the aisle. There's some other people who are not, but
those are the ones we want to know about. No.
Helen is still at the White House a lot of mornings at 7:30. She might not should be, but I think there are questions to how long she would live without this connection. And there's a value to it in that she has been there so long, for so many years, for so many hours. It's almost like she knows the dog that didn't bark. When something should be happening that didn't happen. When someone isn't there, where are they? What are they doing? She can call and find out. Her repertorial skills are just amazing, really, even at her age.
Tell us about Rupert Murdoch and his influence on journalism.
What his real influence is, it shows that every major publishing company should own a motion picture studio, which in a couple of films every year can cover every loss you have in any other part of your business. He is single-minded right now in his, I don't think assault is too strong a word on the New York Times. That's why he has bought Dow Jones, publishing the Wall Street Journal. That's why he's about to start a New York section. He is incredibly shrewd. He has, in some of his publications, it's very interesting to watch him, what you would almost think was like pulling punches. For instance, in the 1997 election in Britain, The Sun, which is a very, it's a tabloid, it's screaming headlines, and it remained very faithful to the Tories, just as it had in the 93 election, in which the headline on election day on The Sun was something like, will the last person in Britain please turn out the lights? It was that, and then they didn't declare Major the winner on the next morning. Their headline was, "It's the Sun what done it." Talking about how their coverage, special, slanted, if you will, coverage, had won. So, but in the 1997 election, Murdoch backed off in the Times, the quality broadsheet that he then owned, and was very warm and welcoming to Blair. So he's very shrewd, strategic. It's not someone I would want to face across town with a newspaper and all that money.
Okay, you pick. You have 1 week with any of the past 6 U.S. presidents or Hunter Thompson.
It wouldn't be Hunter Thompson. I had 2 weeks next to Hunter Thompson on the zoo plane on the McGovern campaign. If you go back and read the first, Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, up until the Florida primary, it is actually brilliant reporting. After that, he got tired of it. The best thing that came out of the rest of that was, in fact, Timothy Krause had been sent out to be a minder of Hunter Thompson for various reasons by Rolling Stone. And Krause's Boys on the Bus is, from my sort of unobjective viewpoint, is a much more important book once you get through up until the Florida primary, because after that, to use a pejorative phrase, Hunter was mailing it in, and in fact he wasn't mailing it on time, and they had to beat the last few chapters out of it basically. If I had to pick one of the last presidents, almost certainly Clinton, as the best politician I have ever seen. I mean, I asked Helen once to choose between Johnson and Clinton, and she thought Johnson. But, I mean, I just had more eyes, sort of hands-on with Clinton. That has nothing to do with anything. It's it's like, if you had to, in Arkansas they used to say, if you could have dinner and drinks with Orville Faubus or Bill Fulbright, there was no question you'd do it with Orville Faubus. Much more interesting. Not as intellectually stimulating, but more interesting. Clinton, as Brownie Ledbetter, one of his one of the great pushy white liberal ladies in Little Rock, said I guess it was just as Clinton was announcing for president, said, "If you give Bill half a chance, he'll disappoint you."
We have time probably for one more question.
Hi, Craig. The Washington Post recently went through some cuts. USA Today has been hurting. What
ABC News, anybody you want to mention in Washington, yes.
Right. What suffers in terms of content? In television, investigations to some degree, consumer, special projects. In print media, what takes a back seat? And is it just temporarily?
First of all, I hope it's temporary. I have some concern about that. But what suffers, I think, in any medium you look at now is the long, both to report and to write and to run, either on the air or in print, costly, investigative piece, which is what everyone should be doing. And I don't want to make this too broad, but that's what is going to suffer. And I don't think there's any question about it. Everybody you talk to in Washington, really on eggshells. I hope it's not that way everywhere else. I heard last night, for instance, that the Dallas News is hiring. God, I hope so. But have we reached the bottom of the trough? Even if we have, I'm not sure how we climb back out of it. There's some great pieces around. I'll refer to one in just a minute about what what we ought to be doing and how you can fill in. I end up being hopeful, I think, but everybody has, and I'll talk about this in closing, but about how hard it is right now. And it's easy for me to, at the end of a career, to feel self-satisfied and all of that. But I can't urge you all enough, as I'll say in just a minute, there's always going to be a place for good journalism, even if you have to publish it yourself, which is, of course, now a lot easier than it used to be.